It's reported the main preference of INEOS, that's obviously Sir Jim and his team, is to keep Erik ten Hag until at least the end of the season. Although there's an acceptance that more poor results could force this sooner. I am desperate for Sir Jim, INEOS, Blanc, and everybody else they bring in to get Man United back to being a success. A true rebuild, a reset, a cultural and strategic shift internally to remove all of the problems, the real problems at the club, not the manager per se, not just one individual player, but the root core issues at the club. I've been talking about this for almost a decade now across social media, and how important it is for Man United to remove the toxicity, the problems, the malpractice, to progress and to become competitive and to be able to win on a consistent basis. So I will call out the plan of action. And for me, the idea of sticking with Erik ten Hag is an absolute disgrace. In fact, it is embarrassing. And some will say that, well, if the number one target isn't available, let's just say, this is hypothetical, so nobody get your knickers in a twist, it's Simeone they want. But Simeone is not going to be available until the summer. Well, let's stick with Ten Hag in that time period. I say not, because between now and then, you still want to be introducing all the new processes, procedures, standards to those players. And I don't think you can do it for a failing manager who has lost large sections of this dressing room. Therefore, a good quality interim manager should be appointed to coach the team, but you coach the team through the standards and through the lens of the club project that is being put into place. And all clubs have a club project in 2024. Well, the good ones do. This idea of a managerial project is wrong. It's dated and just does not exist. To add insult to injury, though, if, for instance, they stick with this manager, we have a bad 2 months, and they go, right, we'll change him now, which in my opinion is delaying time. The reports are they're looking at Graham Potter, who has been formally sounded out about his plans for the future. It says that Jean-Claude Blanc has been inundated with calls from agents pushing their clients towards him. Of course, it's Man United. We'll always attract the biggest people. But Graham Potter, if this was to happen, I'll say this now, I have hope that this new part ownership, and remember, Sir Jim Ratcliffe is going to be the majority shareholder at Man United. By the time he ends up investing his own 300 million, he'll have 29% of the shares. And there isn't one other singular person who will have more shares at the club than him. The Glazers as a collective do, but they don't all see eye to eye on the direction of the club anyway. So he becomes a majority individual shareholder. And I want it to work. But if they keep Ten Hag and then sack him between now and midway through the season and look at somebody like a Graham Potter, they are starting off on the wrong foot. They are making huge seismic mistakes from the beginning, and it has to be called out. I understand we want it to succeed as Man United fans, and there is this, let's be positive, let's get behind it, but I can't get behind a mistake. I hope that I'm wrong, and I hope that it isn't a mistake, but I believe that it is, and I'm going to call it out. I'm also seeing reports, Aaron Wan-Bissaka getting a new deal. Victor Lindelof getting a new deal. We were gaslit and lied to 5 years ago or so now about the renewal of contracts of players who we as fans and the footballing world at large believe to be surplus to requirements, not good enough at the elite end of that footballing spectrum. And what we were gaslit over is, well, we're maintaining the valuation. So when we sell them, we get a good and a fair market price. Made sense. I believed it. I trusted that. And in theory, that works. We've never been successful with it. We've always held on to the players too long. We have never really got any significant income for any of these players. And it's one of the reasons that the club is flying very close to the wind when it comes to FFP, because we spend a lot on players, and we should. We spend a lot on wages, which we have to, but we very rarely recoup money in. And because we haven't been winning, the prize money's down, even the level of sponsorships we've got, even though it's growing year on year, it's still lower than it would be if we were a successful club. And that has been partly because of poor recruitment and no project. And there is no club project. Don't let anybody lie to you and pretend there has been. There just hasn't. I am not deluded. I do not believe there is a single manager on planet Earth. There isn't a cluster of players we could sell and a vat of individuals we could buy that would turn the fortunes of Manchester United round with the click of the fingers. Man United fans have got to stop with this embarrassing, delusional notion that just a top-class manager coming in is going to fix the club over the medium to long term. In the short term, you could see a great spike of performances. With good signings, good exits, and a very good manager, you could see Man United competing for the domestic trophies, competing in games with everybody and shooting up the table. Very similarly to how we've seen Tottenham perform so far this year. But to build a squad that has the capabilities to keep up with Manchester City and Pep Guardiola and Liverpool Football Club and Klopp over a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 season period, to be able to compete regularly in Europe against the likes of Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, year in, year out, not just in peaks and troughs, not just when a handful of players are in good form, but when you do have an injury crisis, you still play well. That is going to take minimum 2 years, but more likely 3 years to build over a number of transfer windows. We've seen already the evidence is in. Buying and selling almost a whole squad inside a year creates more problems than it creates solutions. So we don't want to follow those bad examples. So it's going to take time. So I already know there's going to be some comments below, but Terry, you got to be patient. You got to we've got to be patient, but we don't have to be patient with mistakes. Sticking with a manager that's lost half this dressing with the players not running for him is a mistake. Not bringing in the new permanent manager now and breaking the bank is a mistake. Sticking with Ten Hag and sacking him in 2 months because results don't improve would be a mistake. Even talking to Graham Potter is absolutely ridiculous. He couldn't handle Chelsea, the pressures, the standard. He is not going to handle Man United if we are to try and improve those standards. And we're a bigger club with more scrutiny. Those mistakes must be called out. And a renewal of contracts of players that are not of the standard to make us European and Premier League champions again has to be condemned. Has to be condemned. We have made that. I am going to condemn, generally speaking, and I throw the word generally in there because there are always exceptions to the rule, but I'm going to condemn any action that we have seen or any decision that we've seen made multiple times in the last decade that have shot us in the foot. We need to act faster. We need to have a plan. We need to raise those standards, and we need to ensure that we are not making the same mistakes that have led to this road to ruin for Manchester United. And I get that it will be considered toxic, and I get that it will be considered negative. But I believe this is supporting the club. I believe this is showing love to the club. I will praise the good things they do. Bringing in Blanc, bringing in potentially Paul Mitchell and Dan Ashworth, I'm going to praise that. That gives me hope. But then if I start seeing bad decisions, I'm not just going to sit back and go, I'm going to stay silent until it has gone wrong, until we can see the mess of those problems. I'm going to call it out early. I think we are far too long in the tooth now and experienced with the mismanagement of this club to sit down and have our bellies rubbed and to stay silent. But I'd love to know your thoughts on this. Sticking with Ten Hag, looking at Potter, renewing these contracts. What do you make of it? There is one other alternative to this, is that these stories are being somewhat fabricated. And I've read the stories, and there's no sense within them that they're being fabricated. But do you think they are? Do you think this is maybe people at the club whose jobs are under threat, throwing out noise, throwing out mud, trying to create more negativity around the football club, almost as like a parting shot? I'd love to know your thoughts on that. That genuinely could be the case. And if you haven't got to 9 minutes and 53 seconds into this video, you may not have heard me say that. A lot of people do that. They leave a comment, they leave. It's very strange. Listen to the whole video, understand what's being said. But I do feel embarrassed looking at this. We bringing in Sir Jim, keeping the manager, looking at Potter, renewing his contracts. I am just, honestly, and maybe this is fatigue, but I am sick and tired of so many elements of this club embarrassing us. Whether it's the fans thinking that just the new manager fixes us, whether it's the fans thinking that the sale of a Bruno or the sale of a Sancho is going to fix our football club, whether it's the continual ignoring of the root cause problems, and then the clapping and celebrating of those same mistakes potentially being made by the new ownership that are meant to be fixing us. These things, I'm tired of it. I'm tired of being embarrassed. I'm tired of nonsense being said or defended. I want your thoughts and I want your feelings below, people. Hit the like and the share button, and I'll see you all again soon. Peace.